So, did you, dude, did you see Colorado? You catch any of that?
Man, dude, I watched the entire game, and I tell you what, it's and for those that aren't following, we're talking about college football. The It comes down to believing in the system, man. I mean, well, one, do you want to get the background, or you want me to do it? Either or.
No,
Go ahead.
you can give the background. That's fine.
So basically, Deion Sanders, right, comes in, takes over the program, and I think by the time the season started, he had 10 returning scholarship players. Everybody else transferred out, and he was able to do this under a rule that, which I didn't know about, that a first-year head coach can basically get rid of the entire team as long as the institution still provides some financial assistance to the kids. That way, he can't just come in and be like, "Hey, no scholarship for you, get off the team," right? Especially if it's a third year kid or second year kid or something like that. But they were like what 1-10, 1-11 the year before, and
Yep.
so I remember ESPN and Sports Illustrated and all these other people pooping all over Deion Sanders. And I don't know what kind of coach he's going to be, and who knows how Colorado turns out to be or how good they turn out to be. But at 1-10, 1-11, whatever their record was, that obviously wasn't working, right? And at that with that record, that goes beyond just the coaching. That means that your players also suck, and it's probably a combination of the players, the system, the coach, the AD, all of it just sucks. So you know what? It's time to cut sling, man, and that's what he did. And he came in and basically was like, "Hey, you either leave or I'm going to force you to quit." And which I like. I mean, a lot of people were hard up about it, with him coming in with that attitude. But he told the players straight up, "This is who I want to keep. Everybody else, you need to go." They all leave, and he comes out, man, and you can go into the game. I know, like the first couple possessions, I was like, "Dude, this is legit." And you know what? With that win, and who knows what happens with Nebraska? I think Nebraska could be a tougher game because Nebraska's coming off a loss. So especially this day and age in college football, man, you can survive a loss. You survive. You have two losses. I mean, you're pretty much out of the bowl games, I would think, unless you're like a Georgia or you're in one of those, a tough SEC conference where you're playing that conference or that caliber of opponents. But dude, one thing that he has done is he has made those kids believers. They are believers, and I tell you what, man, you can do a whole lot with motivation, a whole lot.
Yeah, and Dion is one of those people. I've never heard anybody say, yeah, he's okay." Dion is one of those people. He's very polarizing. Either people really, really like him, or people really, really hate him.
Kind of like
I mean,
Trump.
yeah, yeah, kind of like Trump.
I'm just
But more
I had to
people
get
like,
out there early.
more people, yeah, more people like Dion than they do Trump, probably. Um, and Dion's winning. If he wins 2 games, hey man, he'll have won more games than Trump has elections, right? So
Or that they won last year, so he's doubled it.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, he came in and Dion. I've always liked Dion. Ever since he played at Florida State. He's an electrifying player to watch. Like he is a lot of fun to watch. He played for the Braves, which are it's my team, and he's a phenomenal athlete. Yeah, he is just one of those guys that when he shows up and he says, "I'm going to do this," he's going to do it. I think he's still the only athlete to hit a home run and catch a touchdown pass in the same week.
Dude,
Right?
that's incredible.
It's
Old school
yeah,
days,
it's
right? That's incredible.
yeah, 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 old school days. So he came into Colorado, like you said, and he cleaned house. And for the ones that stayed, he flat out told them, he was like, "Look, the easy days of training and basically kindergarten, like those days are done with." And he took those kids and man, he trained, yeah, like he wore them out. Reading a bunch of stories about their training camp and on the net, I think it's on Netflix, the Swamp Kings about the Florida Gators back during their a couple national title runs and stuff. Dude, Urban Meyer doesn't have anything on the way Dion just ran those 2 a days this past summer with
Wow.
Colorado. And not only that, dude, they started their season with 86 new players, and the majority of them, 70 something of them, came through the transfer portal. Right, so he took that transfer portal and he was like, "Oh, we're using this," and he brought in, dude. His son's the quarterback, and
And he
a
which
lot of
had a
people,
phenomenal game, right? He set a
yeah,
record.
Yeah, he set a record at Colorado, and a bunch of people were like, it's nepotism. He's bringing his son in only because it's his son, and then his son goes out and shoots the lights out against TCU,
500
and everybody's
yards,
like,
5
yeah,
touchdowns, no
and everybody's
interceptions.
like,
Like,
oh, okay, well the kid, this kid can actually play. It's like, yeah, because he's Deion Sanders' kid, and that kid was trained. That kid was training for Division I football since he was 6 years old. Since he went Pee Wee football, Deion was training him to play in Division I. Like, I mean, that's just So people are like, "Oh, well, the kid can play." We're like, "Yeah, because he's Dion's son." And you know, love or hate Deion Sanders, that man has high expectations for himself. He has high expectations for his players, and he's going to hold people to that. And even if those are his kids, like he's going to hold them to that. So, along that same vein of people hating Deion Sanders, I will say when he came out, in his press conference and he talked, man, as Luke would say, he talked a lot of yang in that press conference, talking to reporters. He's like, "Oh, I brought receipts, because you guys didn't believe. You believe now? Do you believe now?" And so, I mean, he was calling reporters out, and it was cool to watch. I hope he doesn't go down the whole like, you're upset that I'm winning because I'm a black guy. He started down that road a little bit, and I was like, don't do that. Like, don't do that, man. A lot of people like you. Like, don't do
just
that.
go win.
Yeah, just go win. That's the best way to shut people up. Is just go win. And so now the transfer portal, right? So they saw, the SEC commissioner came out. What's his name? Greg Sankey came out and said he finds it, quote, troubling what Dion did at Colorado with the transfer portal. It's like, well, yeah, you found it troubling because he used it to his advantage and he just punched him in the mouth. He punched TCU in the mouth. And TCU's a good team. And they kept it wasn't a blowout or anything, but it was a good game. Colorado came out and played smash mouth
TCU's
football.
ranked. They were ranked.
Yeah.
Well, they were ranked.
Yeah, they were ranked until they lost to the Colorado team that won one game last year, and I don't think won any games the year before maybe. But Greg Sankey, he didn't have any issue in 2019 when LSU's then quarterback, this kind of no name guy named Joe Burrow came out and won the national title for LSU. That was fine. Or when Stetson Bennett transferred away from Georgia and then came back to Georgia, and Georgia won two national titles, on his legs at running back. It was fine. But Dion uses it, to basically overhaul, Colorado's football team. And like you said, he gets people to believe. And now, oh well, that's troubling. I don't know what's going on. It's like, no, it's good. Hey, you help create this system, and now when somebody uses it, you're upset. It's like, don't do that. Don't be that guy.
But
I'm excited.
he used a little known loophole, and I shouldn't say loophole. It's a rule that a first year head coach can do that. And
Yeah,
I actually like that rule because a lot of and our sports followers out there know this, but a lot of these players when they commit to schools, they commit to the coach.
yep,
They want to go play for Hubert Davis or they want to go play for a Rick Pitino or whatever. And if that coach leaves, it's like, well, okay, this is the whole reason that I came here. So you have to
yeah,
have some latitude. So it's not like he can come out and clean the portal, every day or every year. What I want to ask you real quick, because I've got both sides of the coin on this thing. At first, I'm just like, man, this is so bad for them because the transfer portal, and I'm gonna go into this after our next rotation because the NCAA they suck and they just need to go away. Um, but at first, when I saw it, I'm like, man, this is like so bad for the NCAA and how they manage the transfer portal. But at the same time, I'm like, this might actually be the best thing for the NCAA in the transfer portal because even though I agree with how Dion used the system and he was within all rights to do it the way he did it, and I agree with obviously, especially with the win. But hey, man, you're 1-11. It's time to cut sling. Maybe this time because it was willy nilly, man, how they kind of came up with the rules for the transfer portal, especially like in college basketball. It's like where people can just leave whenever they want to. And we've talked about before where, I was always a fan that, okay, there's extenuating circumstances. The school gets suspended, like ASU. The coach leaves, retires, whatever. I think it's a big one. Allow the kid to go and allow them to play immediately. you know the problem is when you have schools that are going to actively recruit entire teams to basically because of nil right to buy a championship. So I'm hoping that what happens with this now is that they take a harder look at it, and maybe what we think was the worst thing for the NCAA, maybe the best thing, if they actually come out and make some common sense rules for the transfer portal and nil. Because this is all, I mean, in Dion's case, it's a little bit different because it's not necessarily tied to nil. Because I don't think any of those athletes were on any nil contracts coming into a 1-11 team. But especially when you look at college basketball, it's very specifically tied to nil, right? So it's the, hey, if I go, I'm playing for a mid-major school or I'm playing in the AAC, I shot the lights out, or and I get to go play for a big time school like Carolina. The ACC is going to be on TV nationwide. 75% of the games. I now have there's money involved. So now it's no longer about just going to a better program. It's now that I'm getting paid for it. So what's your assessment after the one game? Do you see further changes coming down the pipe for the NCAA, the transfer portal? And do you think it's good or bad?
Oh yeah, I think changes are imminent to the transfer portal. I would suspect that changes are going to happen to the transfer portal before the season's over. Mainly because the SEC commissioner, again, Greg Sankey, coming out, and he has a lot. Obviously, he has a lot of sway with the NCAA. Being over the SEC, right? I mean, that is SEC is college, the college football conference. That a bunch of people use as the gold standard. And so the fact that Dion was successful in using it, and Greg Sankey has a problem with it, he's gonna yeah. There's going to be changes to the transfer portal. I, as far as whether it's good or bad, I don't know. I honestly, like, I wasn't a fan of the transfer portal to begin with, concept. Um, you know, Mainly because I didn't think you needed a special one. Hey man, if a kid's got to change schools for whatever reason, like you said, hey, I want to play for, I want to go play for Bobby Bowden, to Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer, like, because that's my best chance to be on, 8 o'clock ESPN. And that's my best chance to get seen and possibly get a shot, at the NFL. Dude, let the kid go play. Let him go play, because at the end of the day, schools can only carry so many people on that roster to begin with.
Right, right,
So who if everybody wants to go play at Florida, okay. And so, Florida's going to take, the however many people are on that roster, and everybody else, hey, sorry man, you're not on the roster. So they're going to wind up at other schools anyway. It's not like one school's going to have all the players. And
right.
and so I didn't see the need for the transfer portal. And like you said, there's always extenuating circumstances. There's other reasons people change schools. Hey, I'm the primary caregiver for my parents. I need to be, close to them, or, whatever the case may be. I need to be at in this geographical location for X reason. Okay. Too easy. Go play. Oh, they don't have a spot for you on your roster? Well, I guess you got a decision to make, huh? You know? And so I never saw the need for the transfer portal. I just saw the need for a little bit of common sense, but we can't have that in today's world. So they had to come up with a transfer portal. But
Well,
yeah,
because it's like you said,
changes are coming.
it's their vested interest, right? It's you have the SEC,
Yeah.
commissioner. And it's like, hey, I mean, regardless, you want your team to always win it, but if not, you want the conference to win, right? For obvious
Exactly.
reasons,
Yep.
TV rights, money, and this and that.
Yeah.
And this is my problem with, and I don't, have you been following the Tez Walker situation with Carolina?
I saw it earlier. I saw it earlier today. I didn't dig into it, um, but yeah, I saw it, but I definitely don't have the details on it.
So here's a kid, Tez Walker. He initially in 2020 commits and goes to play for North Carolina Central and doesn't play a game. North Carolina Central said, nope, we're not playing because of COVID this year. So does not suit up, does not play one game. The entire team doesn't play a game. So then he says, fine, well, I'm going to go to a school because the guy, he's 6'2", 200 pounds. So, receiver, I mean, he's not overly huge, but receivers can be a little bit shorter. So he's got, I guess, average size for a receiver and hopefully some, pro aspirations. So he goes to North Carolina Central. They don't play a game. They shut down for COVID. So he says, okay, hey, I'm transferring and I'm going to go play for Kent State 2021, 2022. So he goes, he plays for Kent State. And then, obviously it's a mid-major school. Gets approached by North Carolina Tar Heels out at Chapel Hill. And I think he's from Charlotte or something like that. But says, yeah, I want to go be closer to home. And oh, by the way, it's North Carolina, yada, yada, yada. So he transfers, ready to play 2 days. So at that point, it was all legal. He's ready to play immediately. 2 days after he transfers, and that's all complete, NCAA comes back and says, nope, you're ineligible. We just changed the rules for two-time transfers. You're not eligible to play at all this year. And They went. His appeal was yesterday. That today's Friday, so his appeal was yesterday on Thursday, and everybody was kind of like, "Yeah, surely he'll win the appeal." I mean, it's common sense. The guy only played for one school. Yes, there were some transfers there. He never played at the other school. He was eligible when he transferred to the University of North Carolina, but now you've come back after he's transferred, retroactively reinstated some rules that say, you know what, you're no longer eligible. And then they come to release. So he goes to his appeal, and they deny it. And then the NCAA puts out this garbage that yeah, we're looking at the purity of the sport, and the mental illness of the kids, and all this other garbage. And I tell you, you do not ever see this, and this is what pisses me off about the NCAA. You don't ever see this, but you've got Duke fans coming out like, I hate North Carolina. Tez Walker should be allowed to play, right? Because it's a common sense thing. You've got the head coach Mac Brown come out and just blasted the NCAA. I think Bubba Cunningham came out and blasted the NCAA. So it's very interesting because you've got a lot of high profile folks that are officially within the program, associated with the program, and other programs that are coming back and just blasting them all over social media because it was an arbitrary ruling, and it's almost like our rights. You know what? It wasn't us. It was just Tez Walker in Carolina. Well, if they can do it to him off that retroactively, they can do it to anybody, right? They can do it to anybody. They can do it to any player. They can do it to any team.
So he went to Kent State. Didn't play because they canceled their season
He went to
for
North Carolina Central, didn't play
oh
because
no,
they
NC
canceled the
Central.
season.
Okay, and then he went to Kent State and he played a season at Kent State.
Right.
Correct.
21
Okay.
22.
In Kent State, like in what conference are they in? It's like the Mid Atlantic.
I don't even know. I'm going to I think
Like
they're like that. Yeah, I think they're in the MAC.
okay, yeah, are they in like the MAC or something. I mean, it's basically a step up from like Tallahassee Community College conference,
Exactly.
and so he can't play at at University of North Carolina because he transferred twice.
Even though
But
it was
he didn't
legal
play
for him to
football.
do, even though it was legal for him to do that 2 days before he transferred, you could transfer and then play. Now they're saying he's got to sit out a year.
That's crazy. Now, what's about the what'd you say about mental illness, mental health of him?
Yeah, the NCAA put out some crap about, well, we'll consider it if there's some mental, health issues and something else. It's some very, very vague. Like one, it was a vague, and I'll look it up here. It was a vague reference that is probably due to something very specific. So there's something behind it. I don't know what it is, but it was like, wow,
Has,
that's kind of odd to throw that in there.
has he has he seen behavioral health or something? Is
Yeah,
that
that I don't
are,
know.
are they alluding specifically to that? So yeah, so what I read, it's like, hey, he's a Charlotte native, and he has family there, and one of the reasons he wanted to come to UNC was he wanted to be able to play in front of his family because obviously his family's local-ish, to UNC, and then I guess they don't travel or I mean it's hard to travel everywhere that a college team travels to play football. Um, yeah, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Especially
Because it
when
can't.
when he was able to like, so he was legitimate when he transferred, and then you
Yeah,
retroactively make a rule 2 days later that says no, you can't play.
I could see okay if you want to change the rules, okay then fine, change the rules and say starting today you can't do X. You can't say, oh, you did this 2 days ago, when it was legal, but now it's not, and so we're going to punish you too. It's like, I mean, that's like passing, that's like Congress passing legislation, passing a law, and it'd be like, hey, I know this was legal 5 days ago, but it's not legal today, and since you did it 5 days ago, we're going to go ahead and say you broke the law and prosecute you. And you're like, what? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So I just pulled him up real quick. So yeah, so um, he is seeing behavioral health. And so it appears that's what the NCAA was like. Well, he's got some mental health issues. So he needs to sit out. And it's like, what? So on one hand, we're encouraging people to go seek mental health, right? And then on the other hand, we're using that, as a punishment and say, well, we're
Yeah,
going to keep you sitting out because you're seeing behavioral health. It's like, okay, well, But what is it? You want me to go see, or do we want people to go see behavioral health, or do we not? Because you can't encourage it and then use it as a cudgel at the same time. That you can't do that. But that's generally
I just wish
typical.
they'd go away, dude. I wish the NCAA would go away. And you know, ACC picked up man, who'd they pick up? SMU and Stanford. Like I
They,
don't that doesn't even make sense to me.
no, it doesn't make sense because I mean I always thought the A and the ACC stood for Atlantic.
Well, it's like
And
NATO,
I
dude. Come on.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't realize Stanford, crossed the country, into, into the Atlantic coast. Um,
but what sense does that even make? I mean, the whole point of the ACC picking up like Miami and Florida State and going after Notre Dame was football because our basketball programs are
yeah.
pretty awesome. You know, top of the country. It was for football. I don't know what SMU and Stanford. What do they bring to the table as far as football,
Well, in California. So it's Stanford, California, and SMU. None of them bring anything to the table for football.
other than
None of them.
marketing, right? Other than viewership out in California,
That
which is
and
probably
and
it.
that's absolutely it, right? And that's what they're looking at. And so I mean, the Pac-12 is disintegrating. Right. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to the Pac-12. I don't know if the Pac-12 is going to be a thing, um, in 2 years from now. I don't know. I don't know how they survive.
It'll
Um,
probably be like the Big East. You know, I think the Big East, you know, they're around, but they're basically a mid-major conference now. But, you know, I'd hate to see the ACC go away because I like the history and the tradition and some of the rivalries you have there. But seeing this decision by the NCAA, I'm like, you know what? I almost wish it would just come down to like, you know, a big 2 or 3 super conference thing because they would just tell the NCAA to go pound sand. Like, hey, we're just going to have the conference tournaments at the end of the year. The winner of each conference, you know, is going to play in some type of playoff format. And there you go, man. That's how you do it. And NCAA, we no longer need you anymore.
yeah, I think part of it may have been to the ACC bringing those three in is I think the ACC is afraid that Florida State and a couple others are going to leave. Florida State has already talked about it. There was a couple of articles in the Tallahassee Democrat, to where the FSU boosters, they had kind of put some feelers out. Hey, how much can we go ahead and have FSU leave the ACC? And obviously they still owe the ACC some money over the next however many years. I think it's like 6 or 7 years. Obviously they'd have to pay some money to do that. But much like Willie Taggart, them buying his contract out, for however many tens of billions, they they were like, let's go ahead and take a look at this because I think Florida State's pretty frustrated with the ACC. There's a couple of teams that are frustrated with the ACC, and they actually talked about going over to the SEC, which
Yep.
Florida State and the SEC. I mean, I love FSU, but man, FSU and the SEC. Like, I don't know if you guys are ready to get punched in the mouth
Yeah.
every
It's
weekend.
not like when they came over to the ACC and like 10 years in a row were like conference champions. You know, it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a little
yeah,
different here, brother.
you're not gonna have that. You're not gonna have that run in the SEC. There's these teams over there called Alabama and Georgia, and they are not going anywhere anytime soon. But I tell you, with Clemson's humiliating defeat at Duke, I mean, dude, I would have lost money on that game because if somebody would have came to me and was like,
I did
Duke's
lose
gonna
money
beat
on that game.
Clemson,
Luke lost money on that game too.
dude. No, if somebody came to me and was like, Duke is gonna beat Clemson, you should put some money on it. I would have been like, you're high, and I would have put my money on Clemson because there's no way Duke's gonna
That's a sure
beat
bet, right?
Clemson.
That's a
Yeah,
sure bet.
dude.
That's like literally if I have an extra 3 or 400 bucks, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll win like $100 if I bet 300. But I mean, Clemson's not going to lose to Duke.
No, surely not, dude. They they got beaten like a redheaded stepchild that owed somebody a lot of money. I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, they went into the half, and you're like, why is this game tied? Or why is Duke up? And then they came out in the third and fourth quarter. Is like, oh, like Clemson's not gonna pull this out because you figure like Clemson's gonna go into the locker room at halftime. They're gonna get embarrassed. Coach dude Dabo's gonna lay into them, and they're gonna
Yep.
come out fired up. Dude, they came out of the locker room worse than they played worse in the second half than they did the first half, and you're like, ooh, ooh,
Well,
that's
and the
bad.
money line changed when Duke went up. I was sitting there with Luke and I'm looking at my little app thing and I'm like, oh, the money line changed. Like it changed like 400 points. So I'm like, I'm putting money on it, right? Because Clemson, like I'm like you, dude. They're going to go into halftime and they're going to come out and they're going to drop 50 points in the second half. And it just kind of keeps going, man. It's a little bit of petering. They get ahead a little bit, but Duke's hanging around. And with any of these underdogs in any sport, you let them hang around long enough, they start to believe they can win, right? And then the pressure
Yeah.
builds on Clemson because there's no pressure on Duke. You're expected to lose by 50. So it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. We're still within, like 3 points. And then I
Yeah.
just watched my money go down the drain. Like I got
And,
to halfway the fourth quarter. I'm like, this is over. Ball game.
oh yeah. Yeah. Not that's you expect them to come out and like you said, man, they get to that like mid to end of the third quarter and they're like, we we may pull this out. And the power of believing in yourself, of believing,
Yeah.
like you said, at the beginning, like Colorado, you get somebody to believe that, hey, this is possible, man. It was the biggest win I think in Duke football history. I mean, nobody expected them to win at all because it's Duke. Duke is not a football school; they're a basketball school, right? I mean, that's what that's what they do. Dude, they came in and they punched Clemson straight in the mouth, and I loathe Clemson. I mean, because they've run the gamut in the ACC the last Lord probably 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just glad that college football is back. I'm glad that Florida State believes in themselves now. They came out and had a great game against LSU.
I
They
lost
had
money on
a
them
great
too.
game.
Dude, I am 0 for 3. I put money on Clemson, I put money on LSU, and I put money on the NFL game last night on because again, Kansas City right now the LSU Florida State game. I mean that there it could have gone either way. I mean as far as the money and this and that. So I was just like, you know what, LSU. So I'll throw some money on there. But like the Kansas City game last night with the NFL, Kansas City, man, another sure thing. If I had $1,000, like there's no way Detroit's coming in and beating Kansas City, the Super Bowl champs, the season opener at home. No way.
Dude, the wait, Travis Kelsey was out for that game, right? Because he got
Yeah.
hurt.
Him
Dude,
and one of their defensive tackles, I think it was
yeah.
holding out.
Watch not so I don't watch the NFL, but you can't help but see headlines and stuff like that. Watch Pat Mahomes' numbers go down, and KC, dude, Kansas City. I yeah. Granted, who do they play? What was it, Detroit? You said,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Kansas City though, they do not have Travis Kelsey. He's a future Hall of Famer. Them not having him, that right there should have
It's
been the
huge.
tail of the tape. Be like, man, you know what? Because take a look at Pat Mahomes' stats with Travis Kelsey, and then take Travis Kelsey out of the equation. It takes a lot of it takes his one of his favorite weapons away.
I
Um,
mean, Brady
so
made a career off of receiving tight ends, right? I mean,
yeah,
obviously
yep,
Brady did a lot of things on his own, but yeah, you look at the numbers without Gronk and even back with Hernandez when he was alive and playing. I mean, it's those receiving tight ends, man, that it's just so
yep,
far and few, in the NFL.
yeah. No, yeah, I would have. I could have put money on either team on that one. Yeah, Florida State and LSU. I would have probably put money on LSU too, simply because I've been let down by Florida State so many times. It's still my team. I love them. I'll be a Seminole till to my last day. But God, they have let me down so much. I would have been like, yeah, they're gonna f this up. Like they're gonna do it. And when they started off, the first half of the first quarter, I was like, yep, there's a Florida State I knew. Stupid penalties, trying to run before you catch the pass, not one arm tackles, stuff like that. I was like, there they are. That's my boys. Um, and so, but
So let
man,
me
come
ask you
out.
this. Let me ask you this because I want to go back and talk about the Deion Sanders thing and the way he practiced and these two a days and this and that. Because one thing, with ASU, they've already it's interesting because before the season started, ASU, and I'm not a fan of them. They're here locally, so you support the local team. My kids go there, went there, but it's they have already said, hey, they're not going to be bowl eligible. They're going to suspend themselves, and they did it before the year even started. So there's no telling how bad it is. But one of the things that I'm curious about looking at what Deion Sanders did. When do you think other coaches catch on? Because one thing that there's like here at ASU, they've got a big dome. It's like a clamshell, and they practice football and especially during the summertime there. And I'm like, to me, that is your home field advantage. Like, I want my players to be acclimated to 115-degree temperature. Like, when you come in to, Sun Devil Stadium, I want you to be like, oh dear baby Jesus, I cannot play here. This is miserable. And I think, I think you the same thing with any of those states that are higher elevation, those high elevation stadiums. You talk about like Denver, especially like in the in the NBA, at the free throw line, they have 5,280 imprinted on the floor. It's psychological. They want you to see that, yeah, I am a mile up. Now, granted, most of the players in the NBA probably don't realize that 5,280 is 1 mile up. So maybe they just should just put 1 mile up. But at what point do other coaches start to follow suit and say, hey, because again, like you said, man, to take that many players and to have them mesh that fast and beat a ranked team on the road, home opener, I mean, that's incredible. So when do you think other coaches start to follow suit with that type of training camp?
I don't know, but I mean, it's not like and obviously Dion didn't invent this style. I mean, this style has been around for a very very long time. Um, I mean, you had Bear Bryant. Uh, you had other coaches that implemented this same style. And as much as I dislike Urban Meyer, I mean, when he ran camp, I mean, it was a dictatorship, and it was, you know, you mess up, you drop a pass, you run a mile. You fumble a ball, you run a mile. You miss a tackle, you run a mile. You miss a blocking assignment, you run a mile. And I mean, those were, and hate, and like I said, man, I hate Urban Meyer, but you look at him, what he did at Florida, even in Ohio State, and God, I hate Ohio State so much. And Ohio State fans are some of the worst
The
people on this
worst,
planet.
the
Um,
worst. Right,
but
they're right up there with Dallas fans. Just saying.
yeah, but he ran great programs, and I remember back in the day at Florida State when Florida State was every year was a national title contender, and it's that defensive line with Marvin Jones and everybody, and you have Mickey Andrews as the defensive coordinator. Mickey Andrews, for every block that you missed, for every tackle that you missed, for every potential interception that you dropped, for every fumble you didn't recover, you ran stadiums. You ran Doak Campbell Stadium, all of it, the next day in practice. So it was, and he was like, I don't care. I don't care if practice goes to midnight. You're running your stadiums because that's your punishment. And what did it do? It made people bigger, stronger, faster, for starters. And two, it made people work a lot harder because they're like, God, I don't want to have to run stadiums again. But that's what he did. He was like, you're running stadiums. And you would see the linebackers out there, during the day. And, Tallahassee, it's not Sun Devil Stadium, but, Tallahassee in the summer,
It's probably
especially
worse.
you start talking July and August, man, when it's 90 something degrees with, 80% humidity. That's no walk in the park. But you take a look at these programs. Nick Saban's another one. Nick Saban, man, dude, you see some of the video coming out of his camps and stuff like that, bro. He's running those kids ragged, but he builds championship caliber teams, and that's what builds championship caliber teams. And we know this. It's the same thing with the military. It's like you can make training soft if you want, but when you go across the pond, you get ready to go do something. You know, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it in blood. The harder you train, the easier the real thing is. Um, I would like to see a lot more coaches catch on to that, simply because I think that's what, especially these days, I think that's what college age kids need. Um, and kudos to Deion Sanders for taking kids from this, college kids of this generation, bringing them in and making it hard on them. And kudos to those kids for sticking around and not quitting. Because there's a lot of folks. I mean, they all had the option to be like, they had the option to go ring the bell and say, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not doing this. But kudos to all those students and players who stayed and was like, no, man, I want to be here because again, I want to play for Deion Sanders. Because at the end of the day, again, love him or hate him, Dion is going to get you your time on ESPN because people are going to cover Dion. They might not be covering you at, at the tight end position or the nose tackle, but they're going to cover Dion. And then you're going to get people are going to come out to watch Dion, and then they're going to see you.
Dude, it's
It's a
national TV
it's a tough
coverage.
road.
You took
Yeah,
Colorado that won one game last year on the road at TCU that was ranked, what, 17 or 21? And it
yeah,
was, prime time nationwide television,
yeah.
right? So you're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
and
And that's the thing, man. And you brought up a good point too, because you're not talking about NFL or professional athletes. You're talking about college kids. They need that guidance. They need that mentoring. It's more than about just the sport. And Carolina basketball, they went through a pretty good overhaul this year. And though they did not come out directly and say it, but you start seeing some of the tweets from the players that stayed and some of the players that left. And it was like, hey, some people are willing to put in the grind, and some people aren't. And if you're not willing to put in the grind, then you need to go somewhere else, because this is not the place to be for you. They want to win. Before
yeah.
I jump on to another topic real quick, one, I commend you on your shirt. Love it. An appeal to heaven. Hey, folks out there, if you've never heard an appeal to heaven or seen this shirt, that type of thing, look it up. Google it. It's pretty wild. It's a good story there. I also want to give a quick shout out. I know we're right in the middle of our podcast here, but a quick shout out to Will. He's one of our listeners, loyal listeners since the beginning, close friend of ours, but he actually made these stickers for us. So it was pretty cool. So, they're also on YouTube. You can see the little C3 sticker. Love it, because I'm sticking them everywhere. Already, I just came back from an Airbnb hanging out with Luke and made sure I stuck a C3 sticker in the sign-in log. But you got the Pandas Are Scary sticker, made especially for Luke. The Defund the Hoa sticker. I love. I need to post that on my my Hoa Facebook homepage or whatever. And then the mule sauce, hot sauce. It's actually pretty cool because one, I'm gonna stick the stickers everywhere, but it's man, we've got some dedicated and loyal listeners out there. Folks that go out there and spend, because like we didn't give him graphics or anything. Right now, I know you can go on there and download stuff and whatever, but like we didn't give him graphics or anything. So he went, download this stuff, use his own time, his own resources. Not saying that other folks have to do this or we want them to do it, but it's pretty cool when you have some of your listeners do that and just kind of do it on their own. And it's like, oh, by the way, I've got something for you. Here you go. So, big shout out to Will.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate Will doing that, man. He, again, he uses his own funds to do that. And we sincerely appreciate it. And so, a quick tangent. So the defund the Hoa thing. So it looks like I am going to be elected president of my newly formed Hoa, right? Not because I've been out shaking hands, and handing, handing babies lollipops and stuff like that. Only because I was the only person to put my name down for it. So I think, I mean, I could still lose. Like I could not get one vote,
You
right?
know what I'm
So
going to
I
do?
mean,
I'm going to go back to the episode. If you were king for a day, what would you do? And you kind of, suspending the
yep.
Constitution, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm going to send that link to like your Hoa, board members. Like, here's what you're getting yourself into.
Well, so here was everybody who was running for a position submitted their bios, right? And everybody submitted like their LinkedIn, headshots, and they were like, John Smith has been a resident of the neighborhood for X number of years and is currently serving in the United States Army in this capacity, blah, 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 right? They have 3 kids. So I sent in mine and it's like, it's a selfie with the wife and I. And it's like, my goal as your HOA president is to ensure that the HOA does the bare minimum in the neighborhood to keep like our street lights on. And other than that, decrease their influence in our day-to-day lives and limit their say in what we can and can't do. That was literally, I was like, there's my bio for you right there. So
Yep.
you can, if you don't want that, then I'm not your guy. If you want that, then I'm your guy. Everybody else is like to make the neighborhood a safe, enjoyable, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm here to destroy the HOA. I'm here to limit its sphere of influence over your day to day life, and keep the reins on it. So we'll see what happens. But I need to get a couple of those defund the HOA stickers from you because I need to have those
Luke
in
has
case I
your
get
set.
elected. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, I
I
gave
need
him a
to get it from
set
him.
of gave him his set and your set. And the Hoa thing, I mean, we talked about it a couple of times in here, but there was a lot more influence than what people believe. And in Phoenix, it's mind-boggling to me because some people want to be governed. A lot of people want to be governed. A lot of people want to be told what to do. So Phoenix, I think they just passed it where they said, hey, you can now have casitas and you can rent them out. Okay. You can always have casitas, but you can rent them out as, for, additional apartments, living spaces or whatever. And, a lot of folks are happy with that because home prices are so high. Apartments are so high. There's lack of places to live. So the casita is going to open up the market by, probably tens of thousands, right? when you look throughout the entire valley. And a lot of that stuff will go to HOAs, whether you can have the casitas, whether can't have casitas, what they got to look like, this and that, whatever. They'll regulate all that stuff. It is amazing because here's my whole thing. Hey man, it's your property. Build whatever the hell you want to on there. Build a guest home, whatever. My only concern would be like parking. I think your parking needs to be self-contained parking because we just don't have the room on the streets. Okay, so if you take every house here in our neighborhood that's got a casita, we've got 48 homes. We don't have a whole lot of street parking, and you have an additional 48 cars parked along the streets. It's tough. We just don't have the space for it. So that is where I think I hope like, hey, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. But you need to have some self-contained parking, i.e., the RV gate, pull in. Like with us, we've got a gravel quarter minus driveway or whatever on the side of the house. You can pull up there or whatever. But it is amazing how many people are like, well, no, we should have laws against that.
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
it's your property. I mean, outside of me putting a car with, sitting on cinder blocks in the front yard, I think there's some common sense laws, right? Like, I understand you shouldn't have that. But building a guest home, which is very, very common, it's not out of the ordinary, it's not an extreme. And then being like, well, you know what? We're going to let you build your guest home, but I get to determine how you use it. Like, people want that.
Yeah, no, people absolutely want that. You see New York getting rid of, basically cracking down on Airbnbs.
They're getting rid of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Or
basically,
they've
you're
made the
not getting
laws so tough that you can't have it.
exactly no more less than 30-day rentals, stuff like that. And it's like, really? I mean, Hawaii did that, and it really hurt. I mean, obviously Hawaii is not going to, go under, because they're from their tourism alone. But you can't get an Airbnb in Hawaii for less than 30 days, and I think on one or two of the islands. But it's absolutely nuts. And the Hoa thing, like I understand why people want homeowners associations, right, to maintain their property value. But let's say you take a neighborhood like ours, and not that only because housing is overinflated right now, value wise, people who are buying houses in our neighborhood aren't the people you have to worry about putting cars on blocks sitting in your sitting in their driveway and sitting there for a year. They're
Right.
not the people you have to worry about having inflatable pools and in their front yard for a year at a time, like because the pricing alone keeps them out, right? It's prohibitive for them to to buy here. Everybody in our neighborhood, they keep their grass mowed. Some people might let it go a little longer than I would, but that doesn't mean it's it's just like, oh my god, it's so unsightly. Like, it's not bringing my property value down because they cut their grass every 3 weeks as opposed to me cut my grass every week and a half. Right?
Right.
It's not that big of a deal. Where HOAs go wrong is when they overstep, because as we found out in 2020, 2021, especially with COVID, is there are some there are a lot of Nazis and communists in our area, man. They love, not only do they want to be governed, they want to govern you, and they want to govern they want to govern the shit out of you. And like, so my father-in-law's neighborhood, their HOA voted and it passed. You cannot park your car in your driveway. It has to be inside your garage.
Wow. What
You
if you already had
cannot
a
park.
vehicle that didn't fit? Like my truck won't fit in the garage.
Too bad. Too bad. Then you're gonna get fined. And so my father-in-law, he's like, I have it part one, because his garage is, it's his work area. He's got a little workshop, stuff like that. And he's got things in there. And he's like, yeah, I haven't parked my car in my garage since the day they passed that thing. And I dare somebody to come tell me. He's like, and I dare the first person to drop a fine in my mailbox. He's like, I dare him. And they were also going to pass and put a limit on how many pets you could have. I was
Our
like,
HOA
oh,
has that. We actually have
it's
that. I mean,
like,
nobody cares, but we have that.
yeah. Well, these people would enforce it because, again, these people are the same people who are like, yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right, John. We should really, get everybody to park their car in their garage and not their driveway. Like, even parking on the street, and we've seen it happen a little bit here in our neighborhood. People are like, hey, how long are you going to have your RV parked in front of your house? Like, so a couple people, as a couple people in our neighborhood have RVs, and they get ready to go somewhere. It's not,
Sure.
they don't pull it up and 2 hours later it's gone. Like, they get home from work, they go, they grab it out of storage wherever it's at, they bring it into the neighborhood, they park it on the street in front of their house, and, they load it up, and maybe the next day they're gone, but it sits out over, it's there overnight and stuff like that. And dude, people are like, well, you should only be able to have your RV in front of your house for like an hour. It's like, do you know how long it takes to load one of those things up and get everything ready and done? It's like, I don't have an RV, but my neighbor does, and talking to him about it. And, obviously I know, you guys got one, and, some of our listeners have them. Dude, I don't care. Like, dude, pull your RV, leave it in front of your house for 48 hours. I don't care. When you get
Yeah,
back, you've got to
we leave
unpack it,
ours.
clean it. Like, leave it in front of your house for a week after you get back. Like, I don't care. And we have small streets. Hey, if you're having a party tonight, people got a street side park. Hey, cool. Just do, all you got to do is be a good neighbor and ask your neighbor, hey, do you mind if people park in front on the street in front of your house? Is that cool? Just be a good neighbor. You don't need a HOA to do that. It's like it's like you talking about the NCAA. Like, the conferences don't need the NCAA, to tell them what they can and can't do. They just get together and work it out,
Conference
right? Like
committee.
human beings. Um, it's like the transfer portal. Hey man, why you're going to transfer schools? Oh, they got a better degree program over there. Okay? That's fine. Yeah, go do it. Like, I don't need Mother May Eyes, and I don't need this governance above me. Like, I'll just go talk to my neighbor like a human being, and and deal with it. But it's just, I don't need another layer of governance in my life. I have enough government in my life. I need less governance in my life.
All the way
I
down to
think
the
we can all.
wife.
I, she listens. I'm not going to say that. You know.
Does she
But
really?
yeah, she listens to some. Yeah, so she listened to the one that we did with Brandon and
Yeah.
Jarrett.
Well,
She
apparently
really liked
everybody
that one.
listened to that episode.
She loved it, man. She loved it. Yeah, we do. We got a lot of traction on that. Brandon and Jarrett shared it for their people, and hopefully they'll share this one and future ones, because we got a lot of traction from those awesome, amazing, good Americans out in Kansas. Um, you know, so
Heck
hopefully
yeah,
they do the
man.
same in the future.
So I got
Um,
one last thing here. Student loan repayments, which I love, started collecting interest again 1 September. So now people have to make payments on their student loans. And they've got this bill out there which is, I think I wrote it down somewhere. Here we go. So now there's this, I don't even know the name of it. There's some national program, a federal program where they are trying to tie your student loan repayment to, it's going to be based on your discretionary income. And then if you are within 225% of the national poverty level, then that will basically determine how much you pay and what you pay. Now, my thing is, I don't know if that affects the overall outcome. I mean, to me, it just says that you're paying less, you're going to be paid, you're going to pay longer, because
Longer.
either way, you still got the same amount. But when you talk about the housing bubble, which I think we're in a bubble, I think that's pretty clear. When subprimes have already started coming back. You already start to see the ads for that stuff. I mean, I guess that people didn't remember 2008. Go back and watch The Big Short, that type of stuff. Um, with student loan payments coming back, which if you were smart, you were making payments over the last 3 years because
Yep.
no interest was accruing, right? You're getting straight principal payments, make the payments, you're rocking and rolling, nothing's accruing. Uh, do you think the student loan repayment coming back is going to have a fairly quick impact or immediate impact on the housing market and folks no longer being able to make house payments because they're making $600-700 a month student loan payments?
I think it's going to impact some people. It's like, okay, do I pay my student loan back or do I pay my mortgage? Um, or do I got to, I got to pay my student loan back? Do I buy a house, right, for those first time home buyers, or for folks like us, going out and taking a look and saying, because this is not the home we're in now is not our forever home. Mainly because it's 2 stories, and I don't want stairs in my forever home. And I want a first floor master bedroom.
I
So
was going to say, you're not going to be able to climb the stairs here in a few more years.
no. So is it going to have an impact? I don't know. I'm going to assume, just I mean, it's going to impact some people, but me personally, I don't care. Honestly, I don't care about it. I don't think it's going to have a big enough impact that it's going to crash the housing market. I think something else is going to, pop that housing bubble. I mean, they're talking about the feds are getting ready to raise the interest rate yet again, which I think that you already have people who aren't building new homes. You have people who are in homes now that aren't buying or building new homes because they most of them like us got in 2019, early 2020, and it's like, why would I build a new house right now and give up my 2.9% rate for a 7 plus rate, on a new home. Like I can't afford the amount of home that it would take for us to live comfortably to build right now with 7+% in the interest rate, and it's getting ready to go up again. Make it crazy. I think that's going to hurt the housing market more than people having to repay their student loans, which again, but the student loan thing, I I don't care about people's student loans. Just pay your bills. You entered into a financial obligation voluntarily, and you need to pay your bills. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's cut
it's
and
just
dry.
as
It's just
simple as
like
that.
any other financial obligation. People
Yeah,
have credit cards,
yeah,
whatever it is. It's like, hey, you pay it. I'm wondering, and I haven't done the math on it to look at it, but I'm wondering. And of course, this is what the Fed. I mean, maybe the Fed loves this because maybe the fact that student loan repayments coming back, there's less disposable income. Trying to cool off inflation some. You talk about the houses, this and that, because that's the Fed's job, or I shouldn't say job. That is kind of their tactic. Is that when inflation gets high and the economy's too hot, we just need to put it in a recession. That's just what you got
yeah,
to do. And we've been saying this for years now, 2.5 years, that, the only thing keeping this thing afloat is the unemployment market, or the labor market, the unemployment rate being very low in the labor market. And people are having to work because inflation is so high. And it's kind of, it pisses me off because a lot of folks, especially you see on X, where, you got the Krugers and these guys that are all, these economists and experts, and they're just being straight disingenuous. I mean, you talk about the inflation rate, which is creeping back up. And they're like, oh, it's only, 3.3%. It's great. And we called this out a year ago. It's like, actually over a year ago. So, hey, inflation is year over year.
yep,
Wait till it starts to overlap on itself. People will be like, look, we went from 9% to 3. No, it's 3 on top of the 9 from last year.
right. Yeah, people do not understand the year over year thing. They don't, and they cherry pick the numbers. They're like, hey, inflation, is 3.8% this year. It's like, well, yeah, on top of the 7% that it was last year, whatever that number is. And you talk about, and we've said it on here before, the only thing keeping this thing together is those unemployment numbers. And you take a look at the August numbers, unemployment rose to 3.8%, and that's up from 3.5% in July. So it's starting to tick up. um and then you saw, and I don't get it, especially, and granted, this year is not an election year, but you're going into campaign season, that the Biden administration is canceling all of the Alaska North Slope drilling permits.
10
And
million
you're like,
acres, dude.
yeah. And you're like, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. So you're going to go into campaign season with $5 gas? Because there's a lot of people, hey, man, people might not be buying a home. They might be. And so, people are like, okay, well, some people might not see prices going up. Everybody feels it when gas prices go up. Everybody. And so them doing that, it's like, oh man,
But
that's a
but
real head
but but
scratcher.
but president has nothing to do with gas prices.
Yeah. 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 And I saw that yesterday. I was like, oof, man. It's like that's a bold move. You want $5 gas? All right. All right. Because I mean everything, even the people I know, I already hear a couple people right now be like, well, not everybody has a car, Josh. Be like, okay, well, petroleum's not in just your fuel tank, dick, right? Um, you know,
It's like those
that,
protesters that did the. I was gonna tweet it, but I think I was drunk and I forgot. They were like, ban all petroleum and fossil fuels, and they used a plastic sign and put it up on the gate. I'm like, so
yep.
what do you think is
Yeah.
in that plastic? I'd had a greater appreciation if they'd like, I don't know, use some like blood on a white sheet or cotton sheet or something like that and tied it up there.
Yeah. Petroleum is in everything. I mean, it is in a lot of stuff, and people they don't get it. But people are like, well, I live in the city. I don't own a car, so I'm not worried about gas. But like, I guess that food just magically shows up in the supermarket, huh? Trucks don't. Yeah, trucks don't bring that stuff at all. You know, it's it'll be interesting to watch.
And it's kind of funny because, and I don't know the reason for it. Maybe one of our listeners, knows the reason, but we were just chatting this morning. It's like, hey, campaign season's been kind of quiet for the last week and a half, or so. I guess since we dropped our last episode. I mean, you hear a little bit of the people are doing their rounds. I think DeSantis was on Fox yesterday, and you've seen the Nikki Haley's and Tim Scott's, but outside of that, man, a couple clippets, from here and there, everything's been pretty quiet. So I don't know if this is like the calm before the storm, or what the deal is, or maybe just everybody's kids are going back to school. So they're, trying to give everybody a little bit of a break for a couple weeks.
that might be part of it, but ever since but you're right though, when DeSantis turned around, and rolled back to Florida to deal with the hurricane,
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of everything kind of got quiet. Not just DeSantis, but everybody. You haven't heard a lot, except for your boy on True Social, who finally realized that Ann Coulter truly is crazy, and
Dude, she fell
called
off
her
the deep
crazy.
end.
She was always off the deep end.
Maybe.
Like
Maybe
she
we were just in the pool with her, so she seemed all right, and then she,
I don't
you
know,
know,
man. Yeah, I mean, I remember in 2016 when she was like, she was on that panel and they were like, who's going to get elected? She's like Donald Trump, and everybody laughed at her, right? And it was like, oh no, she called it. But yeah, dude, the last couple of years, well, I say the last couple of years, but but really for a long time, like she's been out there. She's straight Laura Loomer crazy,
yeah.
and
Ugh, God
so
bless her.
and now Trump, came out, railing against Ann Coulter, which again, that's not unusual. I mean, which is not surprising. Some people I saw on Twitter are like, "I'm surprised he did that." It's like, dude, he lashed out and berated Kayleigh McEnany. Like, I mean, just one of the nicest people that you can possibly have, and I mean, he even drug her through the mud. It was like, dude,
Yeah.
if she's not safe, nobody is safe at all.
Well, and I heard somebody say the other day, and I sent it out on our text. It's, when he ran the first time and when he ran the second time, it was look at what they're doing to us, right? And this time around, so far, the message is look at what they're doing to me. And you start to
Yeah,
see that more and more and more again, over and over and over again, and it's very telling, and it's a subtle difference, right? And I didn't even realize it until somebody, I heard it from one of the pundits, and I was like, it's a pretty subtle difference, but it's a huge difference. So, I don't know what kind of impact that'll have going forward. Again, a long way to election season. Last thing that I have real quick, and I thought we need to close out the we didn't even talk about the what's his name, Oliver Anthony song, but pretty good song, Richmond, north of Richmond.
oh yeah,
I gotta admit I've had it on for a couple times, but I'll leave you with this. This has got to be the best lyric of the year. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds.
that's right. Yeah,
I
that
love it,
song
man.
is. Dude, so that song is fantastic, right? And I think the best part was you remember when we did we watched the GOP primary debates, the first one, and they opened with that song, and people in GOP, some of them were like, "Yeah, man, yeah, people are tired of Washington and blah blah." And it's like that song's about you too. It's not like that song is not just about the left, like it's about you too, bro. Um, hey, Mike Pence, that song's about you, right? You're wrapped up in that. It was just just to see that how tone deaf most of them are. Was legit, but yeah, that's a great line. If you get a chance, I gotta watch it. I still haven't done it. Watch him on his episode he did with Rogan. Um, it's really good. Dude got on Joe Rogan and started pulling off the Bible and was reading Bible verses and stuff, and it's really really good. And it just it I think that goes back to a testament to Joe Rogan and the fact that he's probably one of the greatest interviewers, of our time, and moderators. Like, God, I wish they would have every presidential candidate go sit down with him for 3 hours and talk, man, because he is a no holds barred. Like he doesn't pick a side. Like he would drag everybody. Um, so anyway, all right, this is going to do it for this one. It's a quick one. We wanted to, get one out for our 7 listeners out there. So it's just a couple quick shout outs. Hey, Damon, thanks for listening. We're here. And JT up in Virginia, Jason out in Louisiana, Grant, and Big Game James down in Florida. Thanks for listening. We appreciate all you folks taking time out of your day, listening to us rant and ramble about whatever. And until next time, keep those canteen cups full of some Redwood Empire
Dude, that's good stuff.
cash strength pipe dream. Man, it was so
Even the
good.
regular is good. I bought the
Yeah,
regular yesterday, and I'm like, man, this thing, it's a little thin because I mean, dude, it's a $25 bottle, so it's slightly thin, but dude, the flavor profile is on point. On point. I
yeah,
think it's 90 proof.
dude,
Perfect.
it was so good. I gotta grab the next one I see, plus the Emerald Giant, which everybody was saying that that one and there's the other one, their rye is phenomenal too. So
Best thing to come out of
anyway,
California since Reagan.
That's right. So, anyway, everybody take care, and we will see y'all on the next episode.